Hi everyone, my name's Kayla, and today we're going to be talking about broadband and home networks. This is something that I actually kind of had a little background on just because my dad has always been really big into it. Growing up, we always had DSL. He would change, trying to figure out what was going to be the fastest. So just having a little bit of background knowledge on that really helped me when I was going through the chapter. So I'm excited to teach a little bit about it. So first I'm just going to start off with a brief introduction of the chapter. So the term broadband is generally used to describe high-speed internet. The most common broadband technologies are digital subscriber line, which is DSL, which most people use the shortened version, and then cable modem, satellite, fiber cable networks, and also wireless technologies. Broadband providers include telephone companies, cable operators, public utilities, and private corporations. So, a man named Tim Berners-Lee actually created the World Wide Web just about 2 decades ago, and it's changed the way that we live our lives today just because since he created the web, it's expanded so much. Everything we do now is so digital, and I think that the world today just revolves and has built off of it so much. High-speed internet has enriched our lives through the benefits with healthcare, energy consumption, and also the global economy. It's only getting bigger and these things are only changing, so it's important that we really learn about what the benefits are for the future. So moving on from that, it's what do we consider to be high-speed internet? So what actually is this broadband network? So in the United States, high-speed internet refers to connectivity with speeds greater or equal than 25 megabits per second for download, and then 3 for upload. So while this is standard for the US, it's actually lower than most of the other countries, but it's still rising a lot. The US is ranked 16th international with the speeds, and South Korea actually has the top speeds in the world for internet speed, which I thought was really interesting. So there are 10 countries that have actually reached 100% penetration rate for downloading and uploading, and those are Australia, Denmark, Florida, Finland, Japan, Korea, New Zealand, Sweden, Switzerland, and then us, the US. So we were actually a little bit behind these other countries, which I don't think I realized until reading this chapter. So what does this mean? This means that with the internet speeds increasing, users are able to engage in things that we weren't before. We're able to do interactive gaming with, Fortnite on Xbox, PS3, whatever. And then also video calls with the FaceTime, Skype, all of those things were never possible before we had this high-speed internet. So that only is the small part of it. There's so many more things that we're able to do now with that. Wireless home networks can allow that multiple devices can be connected at the same time, so you can share between your devices. An example of this is like airdropping. If your friend is beside you and you want to send a picture over to them, it's way easier now that we have broadband, we have wireless internet, we have such high speeds that you can stream from your laptop to maybe your smart TV, no problem. Whereas 20 years ago, that was unheard of. We were doing dial-up and waiting forever for one page to load. So those were 2 examples that were given in the book, but there's so many other things that go on, such as listening to music through a home theater system from your phone or anything like that where it's wireless, it's Bluetooth. All of that was not possible before we had this. So like I think I mentioned before in the beginning, the most common broadband technologies are DSL, cable modem, satellite, fiber cable networks, and wireless technologies. So I'm just going to give a brief overview on what each of those are, what the difference is, which ones are faster. So starting with DSL, DSL is one of the most common. It's actually, it accounts for like 50% of people who are using these broadband networks. So it uses telephone lines to provide internet services. This is actually what we have at my house, so this is what I have the most experience with. And they're often asymmetrical, is what the book called it, which I thought was interesting because it's faster for you to download than it is for you to upload. The next one is the fiber to the node network, which is utilized with like Verizon Fios, AT&T's Uverse, and these run directly into neighborhoods. So when you see these FTTN networks, they're normally in these neighborhoods, so all of these houses have the same internet. The next one is the fiber to the home networks, and those run directly to the houses. So they're known for being extremely fast because all of these houses are getting their own fiber, but they're hard to come across because they're more expensive, they're just less common. Next is the cable modem, and these are the ones where you see the television providers that have been like providing these wireless packages in with their cable TV. I think like DirecTV has it. There's a bunch of different ones that I've seen advertising. So it's kind of interesting how maybe television, I think I talked about this in one of my other classes, cable is kind of going away due to Netflix, streaming, all of that kind of thing, but they're finding a way in by actually providing the internet you need for that. So I think that's really interesting. Next, we're just gonna keep going on these networking technologies. So the next one is satellite, and this is normally utilized by people who can't get DSL where they live. There's a lot of places where there just aren't the phone lines that are needed, or you just can't get it in certain areas. And while these speeds aren't as great as cable or DSL, they're definitely still significantly better than dial-up. So most people, if this is an option, they go with it. Wireless, this is like mobile and fixed. So mobile is like offered by telephone companies. That's what we have on our phones, where we have our 3G, 4G, all of that kind of thing. And then fixed is what you would have in your house. So you would have a Wi-Fi network in your house. You can't take it with you anywhere. And then broadband over power line, it's BPL. And this was thought to be the future at one point, but today it's primarily used to increase the range of Wi-Fi in your home. So like I know at my house, we have one of these routers, and what it does is it just kind of takes our Wi-Fi and makes it so it's evenly spread around the house, so that no matter where we are in our house, we have the same amount of connectivity. So home networks, we have wireless and we have wired. Wireless, we have like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and then what they call Zigbee. These are most common in households, and they're low frequency radio signals. There is one issue that the book addressed with this that I think a lot of people talk about it all the time, which is the issue of security. I do think that this is an issue, and I think it's something that everyone's always kind of concerned about. We don't know who can see what we're looking up, or if we're ever really secure when we're, on FaceTime, if people can see us, if they can hear us, which is definitely an issue. And then wired is what we have, like Ethernet, phone lines, power lines, which these are more commonly found in like offices and universities. They're harder to get in your home, but they are usually more secure, which is a great thing for these companies that are using them. Next, we have residential gateways and net neutrality. So residential gateways are the broadband routers that I talked about a little bit earlier. They allow for sharing between devices on a home network. So it's key to what the industry specialists are calling the smart home. So when you see people who are adjusting their air condition or their lights or anything like that from their smartphones, they're using these residential gateways. And this kind of is the future of what our homes are now. We just got a new refrigerator at home where you can listen to Pandora on it, look up recipes, all these different things. If we're actually gone, we can look and see if we have something in the fridge if we need to pick it up. So it's helpful, but it's definitely the future, and it's definitely something that is going to take some getting used to. And then the next thing that we have is net neutrality. This was actually a really big controversial issue when Obama was in office. So this is just kind of about what internet service providers can block us from going on, or if it's a freedom of speech issue, if there are things that we shouldn't be looking at. So internet service providers can block or prioritize access to web content, but this is always a big debate on what should and shouldn't be allowed. Currently, the FCC remains committed to letting the internet be a free and open space, which I agree with that. I think that, what you want to do on the internet, it's private. It's not something that I think should be regulated. It's just kind of, it's a personal thing. It's not something that I think anybody else should be involved in at all. Next, we have the recent developments and the current status and the future of what this means for us. So, broadband users in the U.S. have increased gradually over the past few years. This book was a little bit older, so I'm sure these numbers now are even more than they were before. But the U.S. has the highest number of broadband subscribers in the world with 102 million users, which this, to me, I don't know if this really has anything to do with it, but it could be a reason why our speeds aren't as high, because we have so many people who are constantly on the internet. Anywhere you go, everyone's using their phones, everyone's using the internet. So 365 million people in the world use broadband. So that's outside of the US, just all over the entire globe, how many people are using it. And this number was from a while ago, so I'm sure that now it's even more than that, which is insane to me. 70% of US households used broadband in 2013, which if they were using that in 2013, it's 5 years later now, so I'm sure the number has gotten even bigger. So I believe that in the future we can expect continued growth in the number of people who are using broadband, as well in the areas that it's not available. I think that broadband has become not something of the future anymore. It's here and it's what we're doing, and it's definitely going to be here to stay for the future, and things are only going to get more and more engulfed in this digital world that we live in now. So yeah, thank you.